Everybody, this is Perch, and I've got a question here, a pretty short one, but I think it can spark a conversation, and it could spark a conversation. I miss the days when certain words and phrases, you could just say them and you didn't sound like some kind of douche doing a 20 tweet thread. Like, the word conversation is a basic word in the English language. Like, hey, I'm going to see this person over there and we're going to have a conversation. That's normal English talk, but Twitter has ruined it for us. Anyway, sorry. There's also a news story that kind of relates to this question as well, but let's get into it. It says, "Hey Perch, curious about your take on banning books, specifically comic books. There's been a rise lately, I'm not sure if that's true, of comic books being banned in libraries and schools, and I'm a classic First Amendment supporter. I don't think books should ever be banned, but I can see sort of the point when you're talking about books that are clearly not appropriate for young children being in a elementary school library. What's your take on banning books? Should it be done? And what are the circumstances in which it's okay?" All right, there's the question. Who doesn't love a good banning books question? This goes along with the story today. That is that Virginia, the state of Virginia, is suing Oni Press and Maya Kobabi. No, I'm going to, Maya, Oni Press and Maya, for the book Genderqueer. So it's a book that, I mean, and Genderqueer is a graphic novel, and it's gone through the mill in several different states. Texas is after it. I think a couple other states. I want to say Florida did something to it, but I don't know. Anyway, it's been one of those books that is, basically had a lot of attention on it. I'm not entirely sure why. In the sense that I've seen Genderqueer. I think it's not. There's books that are more I don't even know the right word, explicit than Genderqueer, but okay. Anyway, it's a coming of age story. Gender, trying to figure it out, and and all that kind of stuff. It definitely has things in it that are not. Anyway, it is what it is. The point is not about that book. But it's the basic, I think, more recent premise is that the Genderqueer graphic novel features a lot of people in school dealing with coming out and educators talking about gay penguins, and I mean just so anyway, there's just it's a book that I think is bringing the heart of the school topic up, and so people are having to deal with it. Anyway, it does mention the Terry Moore series, Strangers in Paradise, which is pretty cool. I always in support of Terry Moore and Strangers in Paradise getting some love. But anyway, so this book is getting not just banned, but the Oni is being sued for obscenity. There's a state law around. If you believe that the person engaged is in the sale or commercial distribution of an obscene book, any citizen or the attorney for the Commonwealth can institute a proceeding in circuit court, and so on. So that's the fight. And the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund is all over it, and articles are being written, and it's immediately people are running for their torches and doing this is gender identity in schools. Anyway, it's funny how the title of just basically this is banning a book, but it blossoms into 8 other topics. So it's sometimes hard to unwind some of that. So how do I feel about this? Well, it may surprise none of you if you've been around for the channel for any length of time. Is that no? I'm not in favor of banning books. Definitely not. It was funny. I was recalling how once upon a time, back in high school, and I know this dates the shit out of me, but you were, I think not even high school, junior high school. I was, you listen to the Two Live Crew, and there's that song "Banned in the USA," and there's a whole big deal about it. Feels like the politics have sort of flipped around in all this. But anyway, so anyway, it's just funny to me how things shift and change. So. But I don't believe books should be banned. No, I think that, however, and this isn't a middle ground position. I do believe that the books need to be appropriate to the audience buying the books, or having access to the books. I definitely also agree with that. And it's not about necessarily banning them. It's just like, hey, if it's in a elementary school library, then it needs to be relevant and fitting to elementary school children. It can't be, I mean, you're not. Put it this way. Let's use an extreme exaggeration. Okay, would the elementary school libraries be comfortable having Hustler there available for kids in school? Would they be comfortable with having that magazine there on the shelf? I know a couple of the kids would be comfortable with that, but would the schools be comfortable with that? Probably not. Would the schools be comfortable if they had recordings or downloadable, free download access to Brazier's and everything that went on there? Get those kids hooked on Riley Reid Young, right? Or Monique Alexander or somebody like that. Maybe she's got a good sleeve. But would that be okay? If you're okay with that, then I'm fine. But if you're not okay with that, then I think you're basically admitting that there is some content that doesn't belong in schools, that is made for older audiences. And that's, what's weird is I don't think that's a very controversial topic, but it certainly is in today's day and age. And where it gets weird, or where the lines suddenly blur, is in this discussion around gender identity and how early should we be able to introduce that to people and everything else. And, for what it's worth, in my opinion, doesn't need to be yours. It's just my opinion. Some of the graphic novels in question, and I couldn't tell you for sure this one, but others, feature pretty graphic sex acts in the book. If that shouldn't be in an elementary school. I think you could at least have a healthy debate. If you're dealing with a topic like it's an encyclopedia, if you're dealing with it, very straightforward, but without showing somebody getting a blowjob for money. That's where I think it's. But this is where the whole world's upside down. Look, point blank, I don't think schools should be in the business of teaching kids, under the age of 12 about the, positive benefits of sex workers. I think saying that you're not going to introduce that topic to kids doesn't mean you're against sex workers, doesn't mean you're anti, women or any of that. It simply means that kids under the age of, at that age in elementary school have not learned anything. They haven't even wandered in sexuality at all. So it'd be like you have a school library in the middle of Ohio and you fill it with books that are written in Japanese. It would make no freaking sense to the people who are going in there to that library. There may be one or two kids in there that know Japanese and life's great for them, but to everyone else it's confusing and stupid. And that's to me, that's where a lot of this stuff comes down. I'm a parent, 2 daughters, and I do believe that there are things that can wait, that do not need to be introduced to your kids, out the gate. And if you find yourself in a position, and you may, where you do have to introduce those topics earlier, maybe you've got a relative who's transitioning, who knows, something comes into your life and your kids are curious or asking questions, you have to deal with it. I think the parents get to do that. I think that's the job of the parents to figure that one out. Because schools, and the crazy part about this is I don't think this is a terribly controversial position, but it certainly is in the current timeline that we're in. I think schools are in the business of, giving children the educational, foundational building blocks to understand the world around them. Typically that means, reading, math, science, things like that. And so if you're going to go in and in 6th grade, or, for 6-year-olds, first grade, and you're going to try and explain to them complex gender identity topics, that's confusing as hell to the majority of the kids in that room. I think we got to stop trying to say, well, there's 2 kids in there that are having to deal with this at home, so therefore we're going to tell everybody. To me, you're just, to me that's it's a bunch of things. It's laziness. I think it's wrong. I think it's it's trying to manipulate children at a very impressionable age into agreeing with topics that are not settled yet in some cases. But more importantly, The kids have no context for what's going on. They have no idea what it is. You haven't bothered. Education are like building blocks. It's like building a house. You start with the foundation and then you build the walls. Imagine if you're going to build a house and you're like, well, we're going to put in the tub first, and then we're going to try and hang some shingles, and then we're going to go in there and build the basement. Like, you can't build a house like that. It makes no sense. But for whatever reason, that's how a lot of education is now going. It's all out of order, and we're seeing it in the results of test scores and other things. It's confusing. I also think that, yeah, there are some crappy parents out there who do a terrible job of teaching their kids, but that's not the. Sorry, I get there's crappy parents. I don't think you try and get in there and circumvent that through confusing lessons because a couple of the parents are bad. I think I think you do a poor job in that system. Anyway, I'm sure there's people who agree, disagree. People get very feisty about that. But look, no, I don't. So to me, it's less about banning books, and I understand this is a nuance, and it's about the books at the location should be age appropriate. I think that, running a comic store, if there were comics that featured full frontal nudity or other things, I had to put them in a bag and I had to put them where kids couldn't get at them. That was the rule. I think that was a perfectly acceptable rule. So why is it that, I have to live by that rule, but a school library can, show a guy getting his first blowjob? Why is that? That doesn't make any sense. I think that, everything can be taken to extremes. Certainly you can protect kids more than, is necessary. And you can certainly, do kids harm by being overprotective. No doubt about it. But this isn't overprotective. This is common sense. So, do I think that Oni should be sued over this book? To me, that's stupid. I think they just, look, if this book was going into school libraries, get it out of there. It doesn't belong in the elementary school library. That's my view. I think suing somebody over obscenity, I don't know. To me, that's a political stunt, and it is a political stunt. So that just seems like a waste of time. But anyway, there you go. You didn't think you were going to hear this video today, did you? But that's the world we live in, I guess. Let me know your thoughts, of course. There's a lot of reasons, I think, why people are trying to insert these books in, but the biggest of which, I know that there's a lot of people who've gotten in there with the grooming topic. But to me, it's the biggest reason is I think to a certain amount of people, kind of funny to get these books in at elementary school and kind of use it as a way to tweak the parents who, maybe are religious or maybe are Republican or maybe are conservative, whatever it happens to be. It's a way to get at them through their kids. That's what I think is often going on. I don't think a lot of people, just come right out and admit that. But I think that's what happened. I think that's what goes on. I think that's what's going on by and large here. I think it's a way for people to screw with the parents. I don't think most of the people care about the kids at all. If they cared about the kids, they'd actually invest some time into explaining what these concepts are and coming up with a lesson plan that actually made sense and, investing in the kids. But instead, it's funnier to put some of these books in the school library and kind of pat yourself on the back that you're very progressive and, and then just leave the kids to their own devices to hopefully figure out what's going on. That sucks. I think that's lousy. Education in the U.S. Blows. Full stop. It's a ridiculous comedy of errors half the time. And it's not to say there aren't good teachers. There certainly are. But a lot of this garbage, stop for just a second. No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. And just think for yourself. You've got a 6-year-old. What in the hell is this 6-year-old supposed to understand about this social political war that you're throwing on them? Why? Shouldn't we let that kid be able to just have fun and play with toys and not have to get dragged into all this crap? Like, what are you doing? How can you look at yourself in the mirror at night? It's bullshit. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.